This course is intended to teach an individual or group with no prior knowledge of root cause analysis, as well as provide the knowledgeable individual an excellent review of the concepts. We recommend that someone with prior experience and training with root cause analysis teach the course. If not being used as a course, valuable information can still be attained by following through the presentation. If you have questions, please visit www.biz-pi.com. Here's an overview of the course content. We will review the definition of root cause, the benefits of performing root cause analysis, review a recommended problem-solving process that contains root cause analysis steps, provide examples of problems addressed to root cause, things to keep in mind when performing this analysis, and finally a summary review of the course. Upon completion of the course, participants will be able to understand the importance of performing root cause analysis, identify the root cause of a problem using the problem-solving process, and understand the application of basic quality tools in the problem-solving process. Here are some root cause definitions. The causal or contributing factors that, if corrected, would prevent recurrence of the identified problem. The factor that caused a problem or defect and should be permanently eliminated through process improvement. The factor that sets in motion the cause and effect chain that creates a problem. Or the true reason that contributed to the creation of a problem, defect, or nonconformance. Perhaps you have your own example or definition. Root cause analysis is part of a complete corrective action process. Getting to root cause is only half the battle. Preventing the root cause requires many more additional steps, such as identifying the problem, containing and analyzing the problem, defining the root cause, defining and implementing the actions required to eliminate the root cause, and validating that the corrective action prevented recurrence of the problem. Here are the benefits for why your company should take the time on every problem to analyze down to the root cause. You'll be saving time and money because problems are not repeated, problems are prevented in other areas, communication improves between the groups, process cycle times improve since you've taken out the rework loops and the defects, and you can secure long-term company performance and profits. And with less rework and defects leads to increased profits. When should we perform root cause analysis? Well, basically all the time. When you do not dig into a problem deep enough and get into the details of the problems, you should expect them to continue to recur time and time again. Some of the reasons why problems occur include supplier defects, scrap problems, audit findings, safety issues, budget problems, machine defects, excessive inventory, computer issues, and human errors. Here is the usual versus preferred approach to problem solving. In most companies, when a problem surfaces, we firefight and try to put out the fire immediately. This involves some kind of quick fix or workaround to keep the process moving. Just as we find an acceptable band-aid fix that works, another fire starts somewhere else and we rush to fix it. We never take the time to revisit these fires to figure out why they happened in the first place. We keep dealing with the same problems over and over again. The preferred approach is similar. First, we develop a quick fix for the problem. However, instead of rushing to the next issue of the day, we take some extra time to do root cause analysis so that same problem is not tomorrow's big fire or shows up again. We then implement the process change and check to see that it does not return. And we institutionalize a solution so other areas and groups do not have the same problem as well. Which one of these approaches will take longer to complete? Obviously, the preferred approach will take much longer. So why should we take that extra time? We must think in the long term. In 6 months or a year from now, do we want to be dealing with the same number of problems as we are today, or do we want to have more time available to work on improving the process and other value-added activities, such as risk mitigation and prevention? If the problem is not stated in terms of money, you will have a harder time convincing management that it is worth fixing. It will also help you prioritize problems that have the biggest impact financially. Typically, we go after the most frequent problems, and we may be missing those infrequent problems that really hurt the company financially. Here's a basic example of how to attack a problem with the problem-solving process. These are television sets with a defective screen that escapes to the customer. Customers can be used as the internal customer, such as another process area, or the typical external customer, the one who pays for your product or service. First, we want to contain the problem. We want to make certain that the group or area, and in this case it's our external customer, that finds a problem does not see it again. So we put a containment around processes B, C, and D, since we're not sure which one is actually driving the issue. But we're trying to keep the problem from getting to our customer. Once we better understand where the problem originates, we then isolate our containment around that process, and we allow the other processes to go back to operating normally. These processes should not see the problem return. Finally, once root cause is determined and prevented through process changes, the containment effort should be lifted and the new process should no longer create defects resulting from the same root cause. There are 3 types of corrective actions. Immediate is the action done to stop the immediate bleeding. Permanent is typically done on a specific area or product to prevent the root cause from recurring. This is where most companies stop. Preventive is changing the process so the problem does not reoccur again in that area or in any other area in the future. This forces departments and groups to break down walls and communicate for the good of the company. Here's an example of a transactional process showing the 3 types of corrective actions. If there is a documentation error, the immediate action is the reinspection of the paperwork for that specific error. This might also include reworking the document to get it back to an acceptable condition. The permanent action is the changing of the form so that it cannot proceed without the correct information going to the document in the future. The preventive action is the mistake proofing of all similar processes so that the error cannot be made again in the future in other areas. And if preventive action is not addressed, problems will return. Here is another example. For the immediate action, a part is removed and replaced in a product and it's retested. In the permanent action, a product is redesigned to account for the part variability so that it doesn't have a problem in the future. The preventive action is that we have a design process change, so we require that variation analysis testing on similar supplier parts on future designs. Here are some more examples of the difference between permanent versus preventive. Permanent would be trained employee on the proper machine use, where preventive would be made training a requirement to new employees working in that area. Permanent would be updating all customers with latest software revision to fix a problem. And the preventive would be checking for those same software bugs and making it into a checklist to perform prior to release of the software. Permanent would be employee is fired for ethical violation. Preventative would be ethics training developed and provided to all employees. Here's a common, simple, and highly recommended 8-step problem-solving process. You may have another process that you use at your company, and oftentimes there's a lot of overlap between problem-solving processes. So hopefully the steps that we go through will be very similar. The first and one of the most important steps is to identify the problem to address. Meetings can be drawn out and the teams can lose focus when the problem is unclear. It is very easy for teams to use meetings as opportunities to address other issues at the same time, which is taking them off track. The 5 W's and 2 H's approach can help you get there. Simply answer the who, what, where, when and why, and how many to help better define the problem. Here's a description of the 5 W and 2 H questions. For the who, we want to know the individuals or the customers associated with the problem. For the what, we want to know the problem statement or definition. The when is the date and time when the problem was identified. Where would be the location of the complaints, whether that's an area, facility, or customer segment. Why, if there's any previously known explanations or ideas. We'll get into the why as part of our problem-solving process. The how did the problem happen, and how will the problem be corrected? And the how many, the size and frequency of the problem. In most cases, a team of affected individuals should be brought together to discuss the issue. Problems can arise when the right people are not involved. Try and keep the team between 4 to 10 people. More than that can slow down the process. It is recommended that the team assigns a champion to oversee the problem until it is resolved. They may play an active role in the discussions or simply make certain the teams are meeting and that the progress is being made. They may also be responsible for taking issues up to leadership. As the problems become more defined and analysis starts to drive the team in one direction, it is normal for the team members to change. Initially, step 1 will have the most team members, and towards the end of the process, maybe only 1 or 2 people are still actively working the issue. During the root cause analysis step, new members may be asked to participate based on their expertise in a certain area. The following are keys to success for working in a group. First one is defining roles and responsibilities. Each member must know what they're expected to bring to the table. This assures the team that all needed areas are adequately covered before beginning. The second note is to identify external customer needs. What outputs and results are expected from the customer and how will they be communicated? At the end of the project, during, only when needed, those are the questions that need to be decided upon. Identify internal needs. What processes and procedures need to be followed and what systems are available or required. This may include corrective action process. Without the appropriate levels of management supporting the effort, the team will have a hard time implementing any actions or activities that will result from the team's efforts. Clearly defined objectives and outputs are essential, otherwise the team may try to attack issues outside the scope of the analysis or get sidetracked by other problems that each group may want resolved. If all members are not involved in the discussions, there will be less buy-in to the resolution. Identify members who are not participating and ask for their opinions. Try to prevent certain individuals from dominating the discussion. Good meeting location may not make the team perform any better, but it will prevent other distractions and issues that can really impact the team's success. Here are some other roles and responsibilities. The champion should be the mentor who can guide and direct the teams and be an advocate to upper management. The leader should be in charge of the day-to-day authority, calling the meetings, facilitating the team, and reporting up to the champion. A record keeper, or scribe, is the one who writes and publishes the meeting minutes. And the participants need to have all their ideas respected, keep an open mind, and know their roles within the team. The third step is to address the immediate action needed to keep the problem from spreading any further. Oftentimes this involves some sort of band-aid or containment effort, such as sorting of parts or paperwork, reinspection, rework, or recall. Whatever immediate action is done, it should only be temporary and not stay in place after the root cause has been corrected. A check should also be made to see that the containment and immediate action actually kept the problem from spreading any further. Don't just assume. When we verify the immediate action, we want to make sure that the activity implemented to screen, detect, or contain the problem was effective. We must verify that it was through running pilot tests and making sure that another problem does not arise from our temporary solutions. We also need to ensure effective screens and detections are in place so that we do not further impact the customer, and it gives us time until the permanent solution is implemented. Step 4 is defining the root cause. First of all, we want to brainstorm the possible causes of the problem with the team. We recommend the use of the cause and effect or Fishbone diagram. After brainstorming, use the Pareto principle to determine which causes to focus on, or some sort of voting with the team members. After selecting the most probable cause, there is still more analysis to perform. Use the 5 whys methodology until you get to the root cause. The root cause will be a process that initially caused a problem to occur. People, departments, groups, or machines are not the root cause. Try to take the root cause one more step to make sure the team addresses the same problem as the company at the company-wide level or outside of their own department or group. Here's an example of the 5 whys with the Washington Monument. First of all, the Washington Monument was deteriorating. We first ask why, and we determine that it's due to the use of harsh chemicals. The second why, we figure out that they're cleaning it with the chemicals to get rid of the residue left from the pigeons. After the next why, we find out that the pigeons were hanging around to eat all the spiders, which is why they were there making the mess. When we ask why again, find out that the pigeons were there because there's a lot of spiders who were there eating the gnats that were near the monument. We ask why again, and we find out that the gnats were there because they were attracted to the lights at dusk. So we go down to a sixth why and ask, why are there so many gnats there attracted to the lights? And we find out that the timing of the lights didn't change with the seasons, and so therefore it was offset. So as you ask why after each cause, you can start to appreciate how complex the problem might be. If you were to stop after the first why, you might try and change chemicals. But that wouldn't get the monument clean, and you might have to increase the frequency of the cleanings, which would incur additional costs. If you stopped after asking the second why, you might try and remove the pigeons from the area, which might also be costly. If you never get to the true root cause, you will often stop short of the best solution, which is to develop a system that self-adjusts the lights throughout the year. Anything prior to that solution will probably not be sufficient and most likely will incur additional costs, such as exterminating the spiders and the gnats, turning the lights off too early, which might cause security issues, etc. In step 5, verification involves testing of the proposed solution to make sure it will do what the team thinks it will prior to a full-scale implementation. Oftentimes, the solution can create additional problems. If the solution will not work, it is better to find out in a beta or pilot test environment rather than under normal operating conditions. Let's discuss the difference between verification and validation. Verification assures that at a point in time, the action taken will actually do what is intended without causing another problem. Validation provides a measurable evidence over time that the action taken worked properly and that problem has not returned. In step 6, we are simply making sure to complete the action plans defined in step 5. You cannot verify or validate until all actions have been completed. If the actions are not fully completed or they're only partially done, the effectiveness of the solution will be jeopardized. Step 7 involves preparing the team for action once the data analysis of the solution is complete. Who should be collecting the data and for how long? What type of data results will be deemed acceptable? Finally, in step 8, the team should review the data results to conclude whether the root cause was adequately defined or that the corrective action put in place was effective. If the problem still exists, go back to either step 4 and redefine the root cause, or step 5, readdress the corrective actions put in place. If the problem went away, formally close the problem and celebrate success. It is extremely beneficial if a financial savings impact of resolving the problem is calculated. Many companies will redistribute a percentage of the cost savings back to the team members to further support the importance of solving problems. Here's a first example we will go through. We're going to walk through this example using the quality tools and the problem-solving process. The second example will be transactional process. Step 1, identifying the problem. A part polarity has been reversed on a circuit board. This may have been one incident or a recurring problem identified from a Pareto chart. We next identify the correct team members based on their roles in the company and how they can contribute to the problem-solving effort. The immediate corrective action is that we'll have additional inspection added after this assembly process step to check for reverse part defects. We also have the last 10 lots of printed circuit boards re-inspected to check for similar errors to see if they got out. We place our problem statement in the first box, then we ask the first why. Why was the part reversed? The team determines that the factory worker was unsure of the correct part orientation when performing the task. Oftentimes, teams will stop and assume that the problem is due to human error. This is not an acceptable root cause. Errors will always be made, so teams must dig deeper to find a way of making the process easier or find a better way of catching the problem sooner. We again ask why. Why was the worker unsure of the correct orientation? When we answer the question on this why, we find out that the part is not marked properly. The 5 whys implies asking why 5 times, but it could be more than 5. Asking at least 5 times forces the team to dig beyond their own knowledge of the process and make certain that they don't stop short of the root cause, which is usually only 2 or 3 times. In this step, we ask again, and we find out that engineering ordered it that way from the vendor without any part markings. So now the team determines that the engineering process does not adequately account for manufacturing issues during the selection or specification process. Notice that they did not put the blame on the individual engineer. Here are the permanent and preventative actions. The permanent solution will change the part for that particular problem. The preventive solution truly addresses the larger issue of selecting the parts correctly the first time with orientation markings, instead of afterwards when the problem is found. Here's a second example, this one geared towards transactional or office-related processes. The problem is the department didn't complete their project on time. Here are the team members. In step 3, we apply the immediate action. The team applies additional resources to get the team back on schedule, and no new projects were started until the root cause solution of this project was completed. Why didn't the team complete the project on time? The team decided to use the cause and effect diagram to identify possible causes of the project's delay. Each cause is placed in the appropriate category. We use 4 different categories for this cause and effect diagram: personnel, procedures, materials, and equipment. Under the personnel, we identified 3 possible causes: lack of worker knowledge, lack of resources, or poor project management skills. Under equipment, we identify inadequate computer system. In the materials section, we identified inadequate computer programs or poor documentation. And under procedures, we identify a poor project plan. The team decides, based on experience and the available data, to focus on the lack of resources as a major reason for the delay. So the team determines that the appropriate resources were not available when they were most needed to keep the project on schedule. That is only answering the first why in our 5 whys exercise. In the next why, the team determines that the project manager was not hired in time, which had a huge impact on the project schedule. The team keeps asking why, this time determining that the specifics for the project manager position were not clear and caused the human resources department to contact and interview some candidates who were not fully qualified. Instead of stopping and blaming the HR department, the team brings a representative from HR into the team to dig further. After some discussion, the team determines that there are some problems with the internal job posting process, which allows the job specifics for this position to be overlooked or not clearly defined. During the corrective action phase, the permanent action involves adding an additional full-time support person to the project. The preventive action addresses the process issue so that the problem does not happen again, which is to develop a checklist form with HR for submitting job openings in the future. Here are some hints about root causes and things to keep in mind when performing root cause analysis. Remember, just as one problem may have multiple root cause possibilities, one root cause may be causing multiple problems. When you do root cause analysis on a problem, you will have one root cause. However, if you look at all the possible ways in which it could go wrong, you will find multiple things that need to be improved. When you don't get to root cause, the process that creates it continues to send more problems, and the problems will eventually return. Many times a short period of time without recurrence does not mean the root cause has gone away. When at all possible, brainstorm what possible root causes might be so that you don't have to wait for a problem to arise before it is fixed. Prevention is the key. So let's review what we talked about. You learned how to identify the root cause, why it is important, a process for proper root cause analysis, and how basic quality tools like 5 whys and cause and effect diagram can be applied to examples. If you have any questions about our root cause analysis training or would like to check out other courses we offer, visit our site at biz-pi.com.